Today, it's time to get into the Word. It's time to get in, guys. All right, so we're going to pull up our first opening text. This is in Genesis. Okay, this is Genesis 32. That night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let go unless you bless me." The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. Let's pray. Lord, I pray that this message is all you, Lord. That what you have given to me today falls on the ears of your people, Lord, and they take hold of it, Lord. That they could just be one with you in this moment on this Sunday, Lord. I thank you for all of your goodness. In Jesus' precious name, amen. Thank you, guys. So, guys, my married people, I'm talking to you, okay? Actually, you know what? My single people, this is going to be a word of caution as well, okay? So I've been married going on 3 years now. Yes, to my lovely husband, Reuben. And I just have a confession, honestly. I know this is a weird time to talk about it, but I have a confession. There's something that I have struggled with in our marriage in the past, and it's this idea of what's mine is yours. Or what's mine is ours. And I know that Pastor Rowe preached on that a couple of weeks ago, but like in marriage, like it's difficult for me to wrap my head around it, right? Because when you're single, like what's yours is yours. Like your time is your time, and your calendar is your calendar, and your boundaries, as an introvert, are your boundaries, you know? But then you get married, and it becomes this like one flesh rule. It's like, no, everything that's yours is mine now. It's ours. And it was such a struggle for me. Like, just as an example, right? My lovely husband, he takes a tax out of all the food that I have from my plate. Like, before I even get the plate, he'll be like, all right, I'm going to have some of your food first, you know, because it's our food now. And it's just like, this is marriage. Like, this is ours. Everything is ours now. And the thing, right, of all the things that we have to share, the thing that like really killed me at the beginning of our marriage is sharing our car. Or really sharing my car. Because when I got married to Reuben, like Reuben was taking the bus. You know? Like, I came into this marriage with my own car. Like, I came in, you know, this, like, strong, independent woman, you know? Like, I got my own car, and then, you know, like, the car is under my name. It's, like, the lease is mine, you know, the insurance is mine, the payments, like, I pay those things. And then we get married under God, and it's like, this is our car now. And so now, all of a sudden, like, we're married, and, like, I got to pick up the phone and be like, baby, I'm gonna use our car today. Is that all right? You know, it's such a like struggle for me because I feel like I earned that car. Like, I worked hard to get that car, you know? And nonetheless, it was our car. So Ruben was driving this car one day, and he gets into a car accident with our car. And I'm like, ooh, I'm upset about it, you know? And I'm like, I don't know if you could drive our car anymore because, like, I need it to get to my job. Like, I need to, like, work with it. And he's like, this is our car. We both need it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's fine. So it's fine, whatever. It's a little dented up, not a big deal. 2 weeks later, Ruben gets into an accident again with our car. And I'm like, what? I'm like, now I'm upset, right? So I'm like, the car is actually considered totaled. Like, the mechanic is like, it's actually worth it for you to just total the car. Like, it's not worth it to keep it anymore. So I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm so upset. I'm devastated. I'm like, this is my car. Like, it's my baby. Like, this is my car that I, like, you know, I put the down payment for. I picked it out. No one else's opinion was involved in this car. Like, this is my car. And I was upset about it, honestly. Like, wouldn't you guys be upset? Like, somebody crashes your car. Sheila's upset just listening. Like, she's like, take the keys away from him. I know, but, like, this one flesh rule. And so I'm like, and he's my husband. He's so sweet, right? So he's like, I'm like, my car. And he's like, baby, it's okay. It's our car. It's our car that got messed up. And I'm like, why aren't you as upset as me? If this is our car, you're chilling, like, you know, God's grace is good. And I'm like, okay, but it's fine. Guess we're married. And he's right. It's our car. So then, you know, cars, possessions, they come and they go. It's not a big deal. I don't have to stay with that car. You know, it's fine. So the time came for us to get a new car, all right? So this is like a new marriage. We're getting into this new car together. Now together, we are going to the car dealership. Shout out to Stephen. We're going to the car dealership. And we're picking out our car together. And we're like, okay, this looks good. And we're planning our future together. Like, this is good. This is ours, like fully ours. Let's do it. So we run our credit and we do all those things. But the irony, the lovely irony, is that only Ruben got approved to have the car under his name. So now the car is under his lease, under his insurance, and now he's doing the deposit, the down payment, and I'm like, okay, so by this logic, right, you gotta track with me. So it's his lease, it's his credit that can run, it's gonna be his deposit, he's paying for it now, he has a stable income. Whose car is it? Our car. This is now our car. Because I have a problem with what's mine is yours and ours. I don't have a problem with what's yours is mine. Like, that's fine. I'm wearing his pants right now. So it's all good. It is all good. And really, like, it revealed something in me, right? It was that heart, that mindset of like, no, this is mine. This isn't ours, this is mine. And a part of it, I think, was because I had to work for it so hard, you know? And I bring up Jacob in this text here because when we look at this moment where he's wrestling with this man, he's wrestling with who is revealed to be God, actually. He's wrestling with him, and he says, I will not let go until you bless me, right? And it's interesting because if you look at this text, you would swear that Jacob has never been blessed before. You would swear. He's like, no. Like, I'm not going to let go. He was so stubborn. He's holding on. Like, he had never been blessed before. And I think that this shows this mentality that he has as he's struggling, as he's holding on, right? But the truth is, if you know Jacob's life, he's been blessed so many times already. So Jacob was a twin, right? Jacob and Esau. And they were so close, but Jacob was the younger brother, technically, because Esau came out of the womb first. And so he was so close to having so much just given to him, just walking into this life of privilege, right? The birthright and the blessing of their first son. But he was so close and yet so far, right? And so Jacob ends up living a life striving, working, earning, trying to get his blessing, trying to get his whole, he's just trying so hard. And you see this dude wrestles with God, and he's asking for a blessing. At this point, this is Genesis 32, he had already he traded his stew for Esau's birthright. Like, Reuben's been taking so much of my food, like, I need some birthrights at this point, you know? So he has this birthright now. That was supposed to be Esau's because he's the firstborn son. And then later on, right, the scandal of Jacob and his life is that he conned his father, Isaac, and his brother Esau, out of a blessing for him that was supposed to go to Esau. So he has his birthright, he has his blessing. He got it a little sketchy. It was a little shady, that is for sure, you know? But he got it, he was blessed, right? And so Esau is like so mad, rightfully, like he took his blessing. And so Jacob ends up getting banished, kind of, right? He's like, his mom's like, just go away, go here with my brother, Laban. But then, as he's away, he ends up getting blessed as well because he has multiple wives, and this dude ends up with like 11 children. He has cattle, and he is just truly, truly blessed, but it just doesn't. In Genesis 32, he's saying, bless me. Like he didn't already have his blessing. The title of my message today is, It's Time to Get Your Car Back. No, I'm kidding. It's actually, the title of my message is, It's Time to Take Hold. And I think that that's the struggle that we're witnessing here, is that although Jacob has lived this life filled with blessing, there was something that he was holding on to a little bit too tight that was keeping him from taking hold of what God had for him. He lived a life of deception because he was behind. Do you ever feel like that? Like you're so close to your blessing, but maybe somebody else has it? Like you were right there, I just missed it. I just missed it. And this is what Jacob is going through right now. Like I said, he was a twin. It wasn't years between him and his brother who had the firstborn blessing. This is just moments. Actually, the Bible says that he was holding on to the heel of his brother as he left the womb. He was so, so close. And you could see why he starts to strive. Like that's relatable. It's relatable for me. I'm a third of 3 children, the baby, right? And as a baby, like I'm the one who wasn't put in activities. I was the one who, all my brothers and my brother and my sister, they had it all. And I got what was left behind. Even my food, I'm sorry, but even my food, like I had the smallest plate because I was the baby. Even my photos, I don't have as many photos as my brother and my sister. Because I think like the allure of like having a cute kid is like over by the time you have 3, you know? But I remember telling my mother this, you know, from a healed place, because I'm like, yo, Ma, like, I don't have any photos of me. Like, there's so few. And she tells me, but I have this folder of all of your accomplishments, when you were student of the month and when you had the report cards and your writings and all that. And I was like, that's amazing. But it kind of tells a kid that you have to work hard to be remembered. Like you have to earn your place in your parents' life. That's kind of what that told me. And my parents, they love me. They do. They definitely do. But there's something about it that just like, when you come last, like you really feel it. You really feel just being there in last place, even as close as you are, just being there. But something happens in a moment, right, where Jacob is wrestling with the man who appears to be God. Sorry guys. My husband shared his germs with me. He said, my germs are our germs. So I'm sick. But anyway, and so something happens. He takes hold of God. And now all of the things that were kind of his, like now he could actually call them as blessings, right? So we're going to go to my next verse. And this is right before Jacob, years later, ends up meeting up with Esau. All right, so this is his brother that wants to kill him. But he has to go back home. He's like, I'm going to go back home, and I'm going to try to get favor in his eyes. And so he love bombs Esau. He's like, I'm going to put all these things together, and he's going to love me, and it's going to be fine, right? So it says, but Esau ran to meet Jacob. This is different now. Embraced him. Oh, no. I think I have the wrong text. Okay, it's okay. I don't need that text. So he ends up counting all of his flock before he decides to meet Jacob, right? Because he knew, all right, Jacob has 400 men. He's going to be down there. He's going to be angry. So I'm going to count up everything that I have, and I'm going to give him some stuff. I'm going to give it all to him. I'm going to have my cattle, and it's going to be great. It's going to be fine. And he's trying to remind himself, actually, what God has blessed him. This is before he's asking God for a blessing, okay? This is before. So he's counting it all, and he is going to now meet up with Esau. And so it says, this is right. 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows. So he is preparing to love bomb Esau. So this is before he's wrestling with God. We're going to go to the next text after he wrestles with God. Here we go. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Then Esau looked up and saw the women and children. Who are these with you? He asked. Jacob answered, they are the children God has graciously given your servant. This is after he wrestles with God and takes hold. Now he realizes that he's blessed because he's taken hold of God. Then the female servants and their children approached and bowed. Next, Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all, Joseph and Rachel, they bowed down too. He says, what's the meaning of all these flocks and herds I met? To find favor in your eyes, my Lord. He said, but Esau said, I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself. No, please, Jacob said. If I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me, for to see your face is like seeing the face of God. Now that you have received me favorably, please accept the present that was brought to you, for God has been gracious to me, and I have all I need. And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted. This is after he takes hold. He says, please, just take it. Which is kind of funny, right? Because this whole time he had been striving for a blessing. And then all of a sudden he's like, You're good. It's fine. You could have it now. But dude, you had just conned your brother out of all these things. This is what you wanted. And the reason why he was, I believe, the reason why he was counting all that is because even after all those years, it revealed his heart of like, he still held on to this guilt and this shame of taking it all from Esau. And so he's holding on to the guilt and the shame, but he's not taking hold of God in this moment of his blessings. He accounts all his blessings as someone else's, actually. His wives, those weren't his wives, those were Laban's daughters. Those cattle, they were Laban's cattle. His birthright, his blessings, those were all Esau's. And I think it's that moment where he's wrestling with God that he just wants his own. He wants mine. I want my blessing. That's the blessing that I want. When he struggles, we're going to go back. It's kind of, it's a back and forth thing because honestly, like, it's not a linear story. Jacob struggles up and down, right? So we're going to go back because this is really interesting. Do you know what the blessing is? The man, God ends up blessing him. But what some scholars believe is the blessing that he gave him was actually his name change, right? This is actually a rhetorical question he asks when he says, "What is your name?" It's rhetorical, kind of like God in the garden saying, "Where are you? What have you done?" It's rhetorical, kind of like Jesus when the woman with the issue of blood touches him. He says, "Who touched me?" It's a rhetorical question because God knew who he was wrestling with. He went to Jacob. He found Jacob. He knew every hair on Jacob's head. And so you say, well, why then? Why are you asking what's my name if you know who I am? God wanted to remind Jacob of who he was before he gave him who he was going to be. The question wasn't for information, it was for transformation. He was about to change. He was about to transform. It says, can we go back to, oh yeah, there it is. Go back to his name. Your name will no longer be Jacob. His name meant deceiver, to follow, supplanter. That's what it meant. So when he says, what's your name? Yeah, I'm a deceiver. It's no longer going to be Jacob, but it's going to be Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans, and you have overcome. The blessing was a name change. The blessing was, now you get to struggle with me. Before you struggled outside of this. I'm with you now. What's interesting about Jacob, again, I said it's not linear. This story is not linear. Jacob's one of the only people in the Bible that he gets a name change, but he doesn't just go by Israel after that. Right? Right? You have like Abram became Abraham, and you have Saul who became Paul, but Jacob and Israel, they actually become interchangeable. They keep on changing because throughout his life, he's struggling with his humanity and with what God has really called him to be. Actually, it says after that name change, he's called Israel 39 times and Jacob 35 times. Because there's a struggle, there's a battle, and it makes sense to me, you know? He has been striving this whole time. Funny enough, scholars believe that this story, right, when Jacob meets Esau, and Esau embraces him This is a story that inspired the prodigal son, right? Think about those parallels. A younger brother wants an inheritance, and then he goes off. And then eventually he comes back, and he's like, I'm going to be your servant. And that's actually in the language that Jacob is saying, like, I'm your servant, you're my Lord. Here I am, you know. And that is, there's a difference. It's mirrored a little bit, but the difference is that the brother, he ends up accepting it. He ends up accepting what he has given him because, you know, Jacob is insistent, and that makes sense. But with the prodigal son, the father, he says, no, I don't need any of it. Because our Father is so much more and so, so good that he doesn't need anything from us. But we strive. We strive for our blessings. I know I do it, you know. I was feeling sick, and I'm like in the shower, and I'm like praying, and I'm like, Lord, I need a miracle. And you know, I don't be asking for miracles. Okay? Only for other people. I'll ask for miracles on someone else's behalf. I'm like, but Lord, I need a miracle today, okay? I need my nose to not be stuffy, okay? All right, I get out of the shower. I give Ruben a list of all my medicine. And I'm like, get the Sudafed, get a humidifier, get this, you know. Why am I trying to outwork God's blessing? That's what we do. And that's what Jacob was doing the whole time. He was trying to outwork God's blessing in his life, but he had already been prophesied that he was going to be blessed. He had already prophesied. So again, when we are looking at the story of him wrestling with God, it's just so good. It's so good because he is wrestling here. And this is God, right? You see his strength that, like, he's wrestling with him all night. Like God can't just, like, snap his fingers and be done. But Jacob is so stubborn and so relentless. And so God just touches his hip. Just so it could be, like, messed up. Just so he's like, I can hurt you. I'm going to show you that I can hurt you, but I'm going to lay down for you because you are striving and you need this win. He's like, you need this win. And if that was the last time that a man needed to lay down for us, I mean, it's not. We have Jesus who laid it all down for us. He laid it all down for us. And as I was preparing this message, it made me realize that the plan was for us to never strive. He never actually wanted us to strive. From that moment in the garden where he asked, "Where are you?" From that moment, he had a plan to lay it all down. He planned to lay his life down and to do what only he could do so that we could be saved, so we could be honored, you know? But really, he wants us to just take hold. He wants us to take hold of our blessings. I know, like, I'm going to be transparent with you guys. When I came to this church, now that's going on, 4 years ago. I came to the church 4 years ago. And it took me about 2 years for me to say, our church, my church. For 2 years, it was like, ooh, you know what you guys should do? You know what, why doesn't Kuhal do this? You know, why not? Why doesn't Kuhal do that? And I think that revealed this heart in me of it's not mine. And maybe now, as I'm kind of putting this message together, it feels like, did it not feel like mine because I didn't earn it? I didn't earn the love that was given to me at this church. I didn't work hard to have the friends that I have in this church. And so, where my car was my car, this church was Ruben's church. It wasn't my church. I don't feel like I deserve this. I don't. Talk about the imposter syndrome. I went from being an unbeliever to a pastor's wife. I'm going to struggle. I'm going to struggle with feeling like I earned this. Even in preparing this message, I'm like, Lord, like, should I be up here? I don't know. I don't know. But I'm here. I'm here because God is so good. The thing about Jacob is that he was blessed all along. He didn't know it. And I think that's the life that we live sometimes, is that we are so busy holding on to this other thing that we don't realize that we're blessed. We're so busy holding on to this church hurt in the past that we don't realize we're in a church that's healthy and loves you, and it's easy. And sometimes we feel like that, right? Like, well, I didn't earn that. Well, it's okay. We didn't earn God's grace, but he gave it to us. He just gave it to us freely because he loves us, because the Father is so much better. Keep it all. Keep it all. I don't need anything. I just need you here with me. Jacob now struggles with God and overcomes. You don't overcome things outside of God. You struggle with God and you overcome. How are you guys feeling? Feeling good? Okay. You notice I didn't have any points today. I started with points, but I was like, honestly, that's me just trying to make it work. The point is, take hold of what God has blessed you with. Take hold. I know, I'm just going to speak from experience here, okay? I remember recently, God showed me, he said, you're afraid to let go of fear because you don't know when it's time for you to work. But I don't need you to work. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to lay it. This is an undeserved love. It's an undeserved grace, but I need you to take hold of it. And kind of what that means when you take hold, it's taking hold of God in your life. Taking hold of, this is my church. I think some of us are here, I'll be honest, and we don't feel like it's my church, your church. Maybe it's your father's church, or your brother's church, or your friend's church, or your grandmother's church. But it's not your church yet. But if you would just take hold of God in your life. And I firmly believe this, because what is our job? Like, it's the Great Commission to bring people to know Jesus. And the truth is, you are never going to invite someone to a house that's not yours. It's never going to happen. And if you do it, you're rude. But it should be your church. It should be your home. I will never be pastor. I will never be shepherded by a pastor that's not mine. They have to be my pastors. In order for me to take hold of what God is doing in my life, they have to be my pastors. This has to be my church. This has to be mine. We have to take possession of it. We have to. This has to be ours in the same way that Jacob finally took hold of God in his life. He took hold of God in his life. I'm going to have the worship team come on up and make me sound more spiritual, please. I feel like there's something about that revelation of guilt and shame as Jacob is counting it all. It's going to be better. I'm going to run. It's so funny. He's going to outrun his blessing. He's going to outrun, and he sends things ahead of himself. He doesn't even want to deal with it. He ends up sending it with his servants. But it's like you can't outrun the love of the Father. And I know that Esau is technically his brother here, but Isaac had died. Their father had died, and so this is his father figure now. And that embrace is so beautiful. That forgiveness is so beautiful. He says it's like seeing the face of God, just face to face after he wrestled with God. After he wrestled with God, that forgiveness and that love is like seeing the face of God. Guys, I want you to take hold. This needs to be the season where you take hold of what's yours. This needs to be the season where you take hold of your blessing. This needs to be the season where you're not worried about who's ahead of you, because God is with you. God is with you every single step of the way. Even as struggled and striving as Jacob was, he still had that in him. That urge to be blessed, and that urge to be loved. It is so, so good that we just get to just walk into it now. This is my last verse. This is coming out of John. It says, I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that are not of the sheep pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life only to take it up again. No one takes it up for me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again. Guys, this is Jesus laying it down for us. He is laying it all down. If it was only you in this world, he would lay it all down for no reason. You can't make sense of that love. You can't make sense of that grace. If you tried, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. It is just so, so good. But what you can do is just take hold. That's why I don't have any points. Because you just got to take hold of it. Take hold of God in your life. Take hold of the goodness that he is just putting there. Take hold of that blessing. And so, Lord, I want to pray for the people that are here, Lord. I want to pray that they imagine themselves, Lord, as this prodigal son or daughter, Lord, that they are ready, Lord, that they are running to meet you. That they are ready to take hold of this unearned blessing, Lord, this unearned love, this unearned mercy and grace, Jesus. I pray that your goodness is all around us, Lord. I pray that they are putting down what is not theirs. I pray that they are releasing any guilt, Lord, or shame, or just anguish, Lord. Anything they feel like they haven't earned, Lord, they just put it down, Lord, and they just take hold of your blessing. Thank you, Jesus. In your precious name, amen.